I saw a funny thing on the computer. A man who for his whole life had wanted to have an Italian sports car, and in retirement and with his savings he was able to buy one. So he went into the shop and they showed him the lovely car and actually took him for a ride. Getting in was no problem. But when they stopped, he couldn't get out. And finally, this is the video, he's crawling out of the car because it's too low for him at that stage. So his ambition to have this wonderful car all his life was not suitable, was not appropriate. Actually, I don't believe in the bucket list. You know the bucket list? You get a list of all these things that you need to do or want to do before you die. A friend of mine in New South Wales, his whole life he wanted to buy a house on the top of a hill overlooking some northern New South Wales beaches. He thought, if I had that, I'll be a happy man. And his business prospered, and he did buy it. And I went to visit him in his house with these wonderful views, and I said, how was it? He said, it's really not too good. And why is that? The views are all there, I can see them. He said, the wind. You know, when there's not even a breeze down below, there's a wind up here, and the glass rattles, and it's always there. And so now I want to go and buy a house down in a place that is protected from the wind. My idea didn't work. My friends visited the Hermitage Art Gallery in St. Petersburg. But this is a highlight for anyone that loves art. But when they got there, and they'd paid a lot of money to get there, and a very long trip, the time they had in the Hermitage was quite small. I think it was about an hour and a half. And there was the greatest collection of art in the world, and they had to rush along, and it was something they so much wanted to do over such a long time. What I'm saying is that some of the things we really long for, or we put on our little list, I must do this, I must do the other thing, may not work out. It may be different when it comes to the reality. And so the idea of having these ambitions, which will really make us happy before we die, does not appeal to me. I think rather than have this fixed list of things we want to do, and by the way, they may not work out the way we wanted them after planning for them for such a long time, we should be ready to be surprised by what comes our way, and be surprised by things which we never expected. Recently, we did a tour of Queensland. Very scenic place. Deserts, beaches, mountains, all of those things. But when I think back to that tour, I think, what was the highlight? I don't mean the highlight for everyone, but for me, a personal thing that I think back on and smile. Well, I'll tell you what. We were driving through central Queensland to a town that used to be a town and now is just a few houses and some run-down businesses, derelict businesses. And we called in for petrol at a very sleepy petrol station, and I was about to get in the car, and my daughter-in-law, who spends her life looking around for mangoes, she comes from Bali, and she loves mangoes, but she said, there's an orange tree over there, and sure enough, on the edge of the concrete of the service station, not oranges, but mandarins, a tree laden with mandarins. And many were on the ground underneath it. And as she said, come on, let's have some. No one will mind because, look, they're all on the ground. And so we went over with a little container, and we took those mandarins from the tree on the edge of the service station in the middle of the wilderness, and we had, I suppose we might have got 25, 30 of the mandarins. And, you know, as we ate them throughout the rest of our trip, and they always tasted divine. Now, and that, taking the mandarins in that little desolate town was a highlight. It still makes me smile. It was a lovely thing. Now, I could never have imagined that. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within us. He also said, don't think about tomorrow, think about the birds and the wildflowers. So in my life, anyway, I think I'm not going to make a big list of things I have to do before I die, but rather be open to be surprised by simple things, by ordinary things, by things that seem of no consequence to other people that bring a great joy to me. That's the way I'm thinking of the things that I want to see and do in my lifetime. Be ready to be surprised. Thank you.